My name is Samuel West. I'm an organizational psychologist with a focus on innovation, and I'm also the director or curator of the Museum of Failure here. Because everyone is so focused on success and successful innovation, and I thought, there's so many failures, but we don't get to hear about them, we don't see them, so I bought some of these failures on eBay. And last summer I was in Zagreb in Croatia, and I went to this museum called the Museum of Broken Relationships. This is where I realized that I need to start a museum, a real museum. The definition of failure, it's quite simple actually, at least in the organizational sense. A failure is when a deviation from expected or desired outcomes. So if you have some expectations on a service or a product, whether it's commercial success or humanitarian success, when that doesn't materialize in some way. Most of them are commercial failures, so they just flop on the market for one reason or another. But some of the products are also maybe successes in themselves, but they led to failure. For example, right here we have the Lobotomy Tools. The tools were a huge success and very, very popular, and they sold a lot of these, so it was a commercial success. But the procedure itself was a huge tragedy for mental patients. Absolutely, no question about it. So we need, and that's one of the purposes or in the aims with the museum, is that we accept failure if we want progress. It doesn't matter if it's a new smartphone or a new medical procedure. We have to accept failure along the way. So that's one message. The other message is that if we accept failure and we're willing to fail openly and learn from it, then we can avoid these big catastrophes that are around us. Because if you fail small, then you can hopefully avoid to fail in a larger sense. The product at the museum that I think represents the museum very well is the Segway, because the Segway still exists. You can see them, tourists use them in city centers. And the reason it represents the museum so well is because the expectations for the Segway were phenomenal. In 2001, when the Segway was launched, investors and the company believed that the Segway would be the first product in history to reach $1 billion in sales within a year. And they had expectations that the Segway would be to the car what the car was to the horse and buggy. And in the future, city infrastructure will be designed around the Segway. The visions were grand. And it's a really cool device. It's very technologically advanced. But, it's a silly little product that's cost it costs 10,000 euros at least for a Segway. Nobody's going to buy that as a transport. I mean, when you can buy a bike or a car for the same money. And I think it represents failure because the results never met the expectations. The criteria to be in the museum is that a product or service is an innovation and that it's a failure. That's the only criteria. Actually, one more. It has to be interesting, but it doesn't have to be funny or a happy story. And I selected them to get a variation, so it would be very easy to have an entire museum with only telephones and technical gadgets, because there's so many failures. But I wanted to have a variation. That's why there's everything from toys to food items to concepts. This is the synthetic trachea. It's the windpipe. It's the part of your throat. And it's from Karolinska Institute in Sweden. It's the most prestigious university hospital in Northern Europe, or at least in Scandinavia. And this is a scandal, because if you take a piece of plastic and operate it into your body, the body would reject it. But if you seed it with the stem cells, the body doesn't reject that organ. That was the idea, at least. So the big scandal here, the big fuck up, is that this world famous institution, medical institution, hires a sort of a rock star surgeon. His name is Macchiarini. Everyone was so excited about this new medical technology. So they got EU money to do the research, and there was so much media hype about this that they neglected the basic science. They didn't do animal testing. Macchiarini, he fabricated research results. So he lied. It's fraud. And all these smart professors and leaders at the Karolinska Institute, they turned off their brains because they were so excited about this innovation. And unfortunately, now there's 9 people that are dead because this never worked. And it's really sad because if they would have done the animal research, the proper research before testing it on humans, then they wouldn't be dead today. This is the Donald Trump board game. It's from 2004. They've taken Monopoly, the classic game, and made a stupid version of it. It's very simple so that people that like Donald Trump can understand it. And the game is very boring. We tried to play it here a couple of weeks ago. It's impossible to play. And interesting thing about it is everything in the game, there's a big photo of Donald Trump on the front. The money has pictures of Donald Trump on it. And even the dice has a T on it. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And everything is about buying and selling real estate. It's such a bad game. So it's no wonder that it was a commercial flop. So, people are not that stupid.